Hello and good morning. I'm Javanka McGee, co-host of Vision Pros Live. Please share with me your first, last name, where you're located, the name of your business and or books or anything that you do.
Sure. So my name's Clay Moffat. I'm currently residing in Phuket, Thailand. I'm from Perth in Western Australia. And the company that I work is my company at the moment. That's Maverick Consultancy. And shouldn't really say we, it's me and two other people, but yeah, okay, let's say we. We work together to provide solutions for primarily entrepreneurs and executives. And we do so in helping them read the room, helping them read themselves, and helping them better themselves so that they can negotiate better deals, more money, and more time for themselves. That's the general synopsis.
I like that. Okay, so it's a consultant team of three individuals.
Mhm.
And one thing that you said that I would love for you to elaborate on is reading the room. I know we're sort of getting right into it, but
Sure.
reading the room and what that really means.
So, through paying attention to nonverbal indicators and nonverbal signs, you can start to get an idea of what's going on in someone's head. Now, so we're clear, this when you first start doing it, even when you become very good at doing it, you're making it up. You're making up stories about other people. However, you're making up stories about other people based on what they say and also what isn't said
Okay.
verbally, as well as what they say non-verbally and what isn't said non-verbally, because the two languages run in parallel, right? And so what you're looking at is, okay, is what they're doing non-verbally being congruent with what they're doing verbally? And you can start to dissect people's behavior, and you can start to pay attention to what's really going on, and you can start to build a picture of what it is that they want. So their intentions are setting in this direction, their behavior is leading in this direction. What's really going on, and how do you adapt to that in the real time?
It seems like if I weren't an entrepreneur, I'd be like, oh, that sounds like a challenge, right? Because you're either giving a speech, you're teaching something, but you're also reading the room. And then there's another thing that you mentioned that you're also reading yourself. So there's an internal read that needs to happen for you to probably even be able to read the room. So what does that look like?
So that's spot on. Obviously, you've been very good at doing this. That actually has to come first. Because if you cannot get in touch with yourself or understand what's going on within yourself, then it makes it very difficult because you'll start to project onto other people. And as
Yeah.
soon as you start projecting, and everyone projects, but your projections become very much more about your insecurities versus what's actually going on in other people. As they say in most pop psychology, perception is projection. And a lot of people default to that. It's not necessarily true all the time, and people like jump off a cliff and like they want to like die on that hill, like, oh, perception is projection. It's not always the case. There are some people that are extremely composed, extremely well put together, and have done a lot of work on themselves, and that have the training to be able to start to dissect what people are saying, what isn't being said, how their body language is incongruent with the words that they're saying, and start to build narratives around what people are truly wanting and truly desiring versus what they're saying. And to go further into that, everyone wears a mask. It's not like even I wear a mask, and I've spent the better part of a decade trying to peel back that mask as much as possible so that the person you see now when I'm on camera is the same person that is off camera when I'm not sitting on camera talking to you, or when I'm not working with a client, or when I'm not out in the public sphere. It's the same way I show up. I work with the same ethics. I work with the same dutifulness. I'm the same conscientiousness. I show up in the same way. I'm as direct in person with my clients as I am with my friends, as I am with my family. And sometimes it comes at a cost. And I recognize that. And it's definitely reduced over the years. But it's about knowing yourself and starting to understand yourself. And a lot of the time, what I've noticed through a lot of people and through a lot of conditioning and working with literally thousands of people and having spoken in front of so many people, is that we struggle as human beings typically to connect with what for lack of a better word, a yes indicator is for us. So what we're all in, like a yes. So I call that my truth, and some people will call it intention. Some people will call it intuition. Some people will call it connecting to source or muse or whatever hell, right? Like, it's fine. You can call it whatever you want.
Yeah.
But for me, it's the truth, because when you have every part of you wanting to move in a direction and you can tune into that, and what's more, you have trained that part of you to know what it means, then you start to pick up on information that would have not been readily available to your conscious mind, because you're getting the whole snapshot. And so you can make the best possible decision at any given moment based on knowing that at that point you've taken in all the information available to you at that point in time. And therefore you will always be making the best decision, which means you can never have regrets. So it's pretty amazing place to start to operate from.
Yeah. And you said the two words that I think stuck with me is truth and intentions. To be intentional about everything that you do. And as a consultant team of 3, and you all training or consulting others, what does that path look like for someone that isn't yet there? How do you begin to consult and assist them with learning those tools in order to be better in their business, or be better in their speaking engagements, or just like you said, on on the camera and off the camera, marrying those two?
So that depends, and allow me to just elaborate on something.
Absolutely.
The company is a team of 3. The only consultant is me. So
Ah,
it's yeah. So it's not like, so I've got people that run in the background, I've someone that does this, then I'm doing the consulting.
got it.
So I had other people, and we were building out coaches and consultants, and it just got complicated. I'm like, you know what? I prefer just building up my systems and doing my thing, and I enjoy working for myself, and having to manage other people is not something I really enjoy that much.
Yeah.
And so when I was doing that, I had to do less consulting and more managing. And so I stepped away from it. I much prefer to do consulting. So what it looks like will really depend on the person that I'm going to work with and the situation, because everything, in my personal view, and I think it's pretty well accepted universally in the psychological sphere, is that everything is context dependent, like everything. And context can change very, very quickly. For example, if you and I went out to, what is that place that they've got in San Antonio with the water that goes around?
Riverwalk.
Riverwalk, right? But there's this one restaurant, Dave's, like this, where everyone just abuses you. This restaurant, you go there and
Yes.
just rude to you.
Yes.
Is it Dave's?
Yes, I think it
Right.
is. I've never been there for that reason.
But you know the place I'm talking
Yes,
about,
I
right?
do.
Yeah, okay. So I was walking past there with a friend, and the way that they were treating people, I was like, people pay for this experience? Like, you crazy? And my friend's like, yes. So there's context, right? So
Mhm.
you go out to a restaurant and someone treats you like that at a restaurant that's not Dave's, and you're going to be like very upset. You go there, you kind of like laugh at it because that's what they're supposed to do.
Yes.
So context is dependent. Context really frames how the situation is going to go. And context is also going to be dependent by expectations of the people entering into that agreement. So typically speaking, when I'm working with someone, for the most cases, people come to see me and come to hire me when things are going wrong. I have very few clients, maybe like 1 or 2%, that come to see me when things are going well. Like, hey, how do I tune it up? How do I get more? How do I get better? It's very rare that happens. They usually come to me in crisis. And so we'll start with where they're at. We'll start with, what's the dumpster fires that's going on in their life right now? Is their dumpster fires mostly personal? Is it mostly professional? Because usually speaking, it will be one or the other. However, regardless of which one is actually causing the dumpster fire, they're going to have problems in both. Because what happens in one life starts to manifest and correct itself in the other. It starts to build. It's just a way that it works. You could have your work life going fantastically and your home life starting to fall apart. So therefore your work doesn't become as good anymore because or vice versa. Home life could be great, but then you're having really bad times at work. So we figure out which one is actually the core of the issue, because that's obviously going to depend on how we start navigating things. If it's a professional problem, it's going to be very different to being a personal problem when they're having a problem with their spouse or a problem with their kids and the kids are off. So it's really going to depend on where the starting point is. And then we're going to start analyzing what is happening specifically with them and how they're showing up. So I'm going to use a word that might not necessarily be accurate, but we'll use it for the sake of argument. How much integrity do they have between their actions and their words.
Mm.
And so the reason I'm using that is very specifically, when someone says, I'm going to do this, and they do that thing, and they repeatedly do that thing, and that is a way that they start showing up, what starts to happen is you start to see a pattern of recognition going on. When someone is saying one thing and then doing something else, it starts to create a massive deviance. And that deviance starts to create distrust within yourself. Because if you can't keep your own word to yourself, then it's less likely that you're going to keep word to other people. And people argue that, oh, no, I'm much more likely to keep my word to other people than to myself because I don't want to look bad. Well, that only gets you part of the way there. Because when it comes to things that really matter, you still won't be able to push across the line because there's no discipline. And discipline is going to be a key driving factor, because a lot of people these days are very much ruled by their emotions instead of being able to regulate their emotions. And I believe this is a clean podcast from what I've been listening to, so I won't taint your record. But there is a saying, I believe Alex Hormozi uses it now. It's something that I've said for many, many years. And it's something that my client, one of my first clients actually told me was one of my strengths. And he said to me, you know what? Do you know why we work together so well and why we got such good results? I said, I have no idea what your take on it is, but please tell me. He said, because you don't really give about my feelings. And I'm like, that's not entirely true. I said, I don't care about them when they get in the way of you getting what you want.
Yeah.
And when you choose to let them get in the way of what you want, then I really couldn't care, because you're not paying me to care about your feelings. You're paying me to say, don't worry about those. Let's get you to the end result. Because once you get to the end result, you'll see that those things were just temporary things, but you were exacerbating, you were exaggerating, you were extending them to mean so much more than they actually needed to.
Wow. Wow. And I love I love how you bleeped out your own word. I think that's super funny. But it's funny because as I'm sitting here listening to you, I believe, well, not even I believe, I know that I'm an emotional person. And it's not necessarily showing the emotion, it's what's internal, right? And that emotion, whatever I'm feeling, it's going to come out in a way that is based off of what I'm feeling, but not whatever the encounter of myself and another individual is doing. And so I think that that's one of the things, and I'm just going to say it on camera, is that I think that's probably one of the hardest things to do, is to keep your emotions intact, to make sure that integrity is still there, that trust is still there, because whatever you're feeling, it's often going to come out eventually, right? If the conversation goes too long. I just think that that's probably one of the most challenging things for me as an entrepreneur, is not going off of emotion. And I think that's a part of our lives. But when that individual said that to you, it sounded funny, because like, you don't care how I feel, but you really do. You're just mostly focused on, is it the job at hand for you?
So it goes a bit more than that.
Okay.
Everyone's an emotional person to a degree.
Yes.
With the exception of maybe psychopaths and sociopaths, right?
Okay.
But apart from that, pretty much everyone's an emotional person. And every single decision that you make, everyone that I make, every single human being on the planet makes, is an emotional decision.
Yeah.
All of them. And then we back it up with rational logic to say why we actually made that emotional decision, right? And so it will stem from beliefs, it'll stem from our childhood traumas, it'll stem from all these things. It'll stem from what we got rewarded for and how we got rewarded as people growing up. And those are the mechanisms that start to drive us in adulthood. And we can go back and change certain things and shift some things. But underneath it all, the drivers are still going to be there and start to motivate us and inspire us and take us into action. And those levels of motivation, those levels of inspiration are great to start. But if the building blocks aren't there and the discipline isn't there to just do it anyway, then when things get tough, people will likely give up. Or when they're not in the mood for it, they'll likely give up. Or when things are slightly more difficult or it's unknown, then they'll likely give up.
Yeah.
And having seen this time and time again, so when I was in the Navy, I used to just watch people we have to drill. Like, you don't get a choice when you're in the middle of the ocean and you're fighting pretend fires. And I'm being legitimate here. Like, there is no fire at all. There's not even smoke, but you're fighting pretend fires. But you drill because the most dangerous thing when you're on a boat at sea is a fire.
Yeah.
That is literally the most dangerous thing, because once the fire destroys the boat, you've got nothing left. You've got nowhere to go. The boat's gone. See you later. And especially when you're in a warship, if a fire goes off, not only do you have fuel, but you've got missiles and you've got ammunition and you've got a whole bunch of things that just basically turns the boat into a powder keg waiting to blow up. So practicing firefighting is a necessity. And while I've got some interesting stories, which we don't need to go into, but we can at a later date if you really want to, about my time in the Navy and how neglectful I was, I think is probably the most politically correct way I could say it. What became apparent is that it doesn't matter whether you want to fight a fire today. It doesn't matter whether you want to practice the drill today. What matters is, have you got it wedged into your brain so it's second nature, so you don't need to think about it? To the point where I haven't been in the Navy for almost 20 years. And I could, within a day, go and lead a fire team to go put out fires. Because of how much we drilled. We used to drill every single day. Every single day.
Wow.
And that's just how it comes in. And so a lot of people say that you are the sum of your decisions, or that you are the sum of your habits. I disagree with that. You're not those things at all. They're just the things that you do. And they don't define you as a person. And I wouldn't even suggest that your decisions define you as a person. But your decisions and your habits will definitely shape the path of your life, whether you like it or not.
True.
And if you want a different path in life, then you need to just not even get out of your own way, but let your feelings sit on the bench and get back in the game.
Yeah. It's so funny when you said that. I literally thought about basketball, football. You already know what you're going into. You know exactly what's about to happen. Get off the bench and do the job. And I can probably put that on my little thing here. Like, get off the bench and just do the job, because that's what you know. And I first want to also say thank you for your service. I totally appreciate that. But now I somewhat have an understanding of where your mindset comes from. I believe.
No, my mindset comes mostly from my dad, of all places.
Really?
My dad's ex-Special Forces. So he went through a lot of stuff, and he's seen a lot of things that you just don't wish a person to see. And have you ever heard of a gentleman, I'm assuming you have, by the name of Jocko Willink?
I have not.
Okay, so he's an ex-Navy SEAL commander, and he was one of the he led the unit during Iraq and Afghanistan. That was like the most decorated unit there. And he's got a video. If you type into YouTube Jocko Willink good, you will just be, and the guy is just so intense. He's like a real life Terminator. It's insane. And in the best way possible, right? He's not going around killing people, so we're clear, but it's just fantastic. But he's got this video where he says good, and basically people used to come to him with a problem, and his SEALs used to come to him with a problem, and his response was good. And they'd be like, what? How's this good? And so he always reframed, it's good. Now you got a challenge. Now you got this. Good. Now you got this. And that was the mentality that I had growing up. I would get in a fight at school. My dad wouldn't say good. He'd say, you're lucky. I would break my arm. He'd say, you're lucky. I would flunk a test. He'd say, you're lucky. I get ditched by a girlfriend. He'd say, you're lucky. I crash a car. You're lucky. It didn't matter what happened. The response was always, you're lucky. And it is so annoying that you just want to punch him in the face.
Yes.
He's like, what? However, now being almost 42, it's very obvious that what he was doing, whether it was intentional or not, I believe it was to show me and to pay attention to the silver lining to every single situation. And the key distinction I found about that was really, really powerful, was that when I'm looking at the silver lining, or defaulting to look for the silver lining, I'm always looking for a way, whether I knew it or not, of how I have some element of control in this. And whenever people are feeling anxious, and I wouldn't say I've really felt anxious that much, I'm sure there's some point in my life that I have, but to the top of mind, it's not there. And I've done a few interviews now. I've completed a few interviews, and I've always struggled to like get into like a deep feeling of anxiety or connect with one. And I think that's because of that. Because no matter how much of a dark place I found myself in, whether that's a metaphorical dark place or a literal dark place, like going down a wrong alley at a Southeast Asian city when I was drunk doing stupid things, I always would look for this way that I'm lucky. So the elevator's broken. Okay, we've got to walk up 7 flights of stairs. Awesome, I'm lucky. I've got 2 working legs. Like, how good is this? There are people that would kill to be able to walk up 7 flights of stairs again in their life that don't have that. The plane's delayed now. Okay, awesome. Well, that means I've got more time to call my wife and kids before I fly out, or I've got more time to do some work for it. Like, there's always something. And so my brain's default pattern to look for that is to always look for how I can utilize the moment and pay attention to the moment. And so if I'm always looking at how I can utilize the moment and pay attention to the moment, then I'm always looking for how I have some element of control, or how I can control what is happening, even though I can't control what's happening. Does that make sense? I'm always controlling how I respond.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I see it as being optimistic with facts, because you're lucky means you have to pull the best part of it out. And it really, I actually get goosebumps hearing that, because there's not a lot of people that think that way. You know, when bad things happen, there's usually a response that tries to fix why that bad thing happened, rather than your father or Jocko saying good or you're lucky. I really truly like that. And I'm going to say this, and I know we don't have that much time to talk about it, but
Sure.
your book, The Truth, I all of this now, me just reading the synopsis of it and just a piece of it, I'm like, this is where all of this ties into, which now I'm intrigued and truly want to read the book. But with all of this, all of what you said, and it's super crazy because time has flown by. I told you 15, 20 minutes, we're on 22 and some change. But I think that I was so dadgum intrigued with how the conversation was going. I'm like, dang, I'm going to ask you, as awkwardly as it is, and as much time as we do have to answer this, just tell me about your vision in this all.
So the vision came out of necessity. And the necessity was the trust trap got written in 3 weeks before I had an operation to save the vision in my right eye. I'm already blind in my left eye. I lost that in 2010 due to 2 failed surgeries. My vision got taken away. They tried to get it back. It failed. They tried to get it back. They got my vision back to near perfect. And then I developed a cataract, and then a cataract surgery then took my vision away permanently. And I haven't had it since. And then November last year, cataract started developing on my other eye. And I was completely uncorrectable with my vision in January. And I couldn't see 3 feet in front of me in focus. So I couldn't even tell it was my wife standing 6 feet away from me, to the point where I'm going to use this word, but it's not really correct. I groped the wrong woman on the bum, thinking it was my wife at the shopping center. And this lady just stood at me as my wife walked around the corner, and I knew it was her because she just started laughing and cracking up, and I could tell her laugh. I'm like, oh, damn. Yeah, this is like... And I did it with my son and my daughter, like right there. So it wasn't like I was trying to, you know what I mean? Like, it's just such a stupid move. Anyway, so the book was written in 3 weeks because I figured out what the issue was. I'd spent months going to ophthalmologists. I went to 7 different ophthalmologists this time, just to like make sure I got the right feeling from the ophthalmologist, and I was happy with how they were going to treat me as a human being, not as just a number and a paycheck. And I found the ophthalmologist, and he said, look, it's 100% cataracts. We need to do this operation. This is going on. And The initial response was like a feeling of relief
Mm-hmm.
because I found the surgeon. I knew what was wrong with my eye because I didn't know for months. I shut down my coaching and my consulting company. I was deleting all my social. I'm like, okay, like I've got to really prepare for the fact that I might not be able to see again. So I may as well just get off everything and spend time with my family.
Yeah.
And then when they told me that it was cataracts, I'm like, okay, there is a chance that it's completely reversible. However, the last time I had cataract surgery, it went completely the wrong way.
Yeah.
And so I was very aware that it was potentially going to go that way. And I was like, well, okay, I've spent the better part of 15 years in self-development, 11 professionally and working with people. If I could only write one book, what would that book be? Because I've only got time to maybe write a book. I don't even know if I'm going to get it done.
Yes.
And the Trust Trap was the book that I wrote because I thought it was the most important message that I could get out. It's the underpinning of every single relationship you've had, have, and will ever have, because you either trust people or you don't trust. Like trust is on the spectrum and you are in different places. And the way this ideological view that we have of trust, that it's a characteristic and a personality trait, is just flawed and wrong. And trust is not about a human being. It's about a mutually beneficial outcome. The very quick example I'll give you is this. So right now, Javanka, it's very clear that it's beneficial for me to be on your show because you believe I can provide value to your audience. So you can trust I'm going to come here and give as much value and as much content and as much oomph to the people that are going to be there and hopefully help them.
Yes.
And I can trust that you want to be a great host and provide me and set me up to be a good guest so that we can both get this, that we have a mutually beneficial outcome.
Absolutely.
And the second that that is not mutually beneficial, like if I pitched you to come on your show and you thought that I wasn't a fit, I could very much trust that you're going to say, no, thank you. And likewise, if you reached out to me and I was like, I don't think we're a fit, I appreciate you reaching out, I would say no. So you can always trust what's going on. And what happens is we create this mechanism inside the brain that goes through a default mechanism because the brain is inherently lazy. The brain wants to survive, and we learned to survive many, many thousands of years ago before there were 7-Elevens and Walmarts and everything else, right? So we couldn't just go down there and get food whenever we wanted. So the brain learnt very early on that before we're even born, it's embedded in us that, okay, we need to conserve energy and only use energy when it's in our best interest. So if we don't think we're going to be able to get something, or we're not fully committed to be able to get something, we're not going to put the energy in.
Absolutely.
This is why I think necessity is such a powerful mechanism. So as soon as someone exerts enough signals to you or me or anyone on the planet that meets our minimum description for trustworthy, we slap that label on them and we forget. And so even when their behavior starts deviating from what we would call a trustworthy person, we ignore it and we override it because they put the label of trustworthy. We slapped it on there. So it's like a file in a filing cabinet, for example. And we go to pull out the file. Oh, trustworthy. And I put it back in. It's fine. Oh, they're just saying, oh, no, it's trustworthy. Put it back in. And it's not until we get this massive breach of trust that completely shatters everything. Like, oh, but they betrayed us. Nope. You betrayed the signals that your brain was reporting on because you've imported this label because of how you've grown up, because you need to conserve energy.
Yes. Yes. Wow. Wow. That's deep. That's super deep because if I would have known it was going to be that deep, I'm like, we could have spent another whole 30 minutes, an hour on that. I mean, and I say that it's deep because it goes into a level of not only just about relationships, but also in business, because you can definitely do the same thing in a business relationship. So we're talking about in its entirety. I get this great feeling of excitement when I ask you to tell me about your vision, and you literally told me about your vision. And I'm like, whoa, because now what that means to me is I did it at the right time and at the right moment because you shared with me that was something super personal, but realizing you're lucky,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Everything is just coming into play and just what you're saying and how you're saying it. And I truly, truly hope that if someone is just on a treadmill and they get anything out of this, I would say trust, and then knowing what your vision is, and then knowing that you're lucky just to even be able to listen to what Clay Moffat has to say at this point. And I cannot be most excited and appreciative to have had you on here. And I'm going to say it again, he has a book out. So his name is Clay Moffat, and it's on Amazon, and it has great reviews. But we're going to bring him back on to talk about that another time. But I will ask you to do this for me. Please share with myself, as well as anyone else that's listening, how they can get in touch with you through your coaching and your consulting business, and or via your social media with your social media handles.
Sure. So the best thing that I can offer for you and your listeners is to go to claymoffat.com/visionpros. And there's going to be a link to a whole bunch of content that they can download, and they can start going through, and they can get access that way. If they want to get in touch with me, then the best way to go is to email me, go@claymoffat.com.
Sweet. So claymoffat.com/visionpros.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
then email go@claymoffat.com. Everything
yes,
just said your name, right? Got it.
Yep.
And
much easier that way.
Yes, and for those that are not watching, because I know that you could possibly be running or something, it's Clay, Moffat, Clay Moffat. So thank you so much for choosing to be with me this morning. Thank you for going over your time limit. I'm sure you have so much more to do, but I am grateful that you've chosen to spend these moments and minutes with me. Have an amazing day.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you for being here today. I'm really happy that you tuned in to Vision Pros Live. I'm looking forward to seeing your reactions as these episodes continue to move forward. This is going to get more and more fun. We'll have more and more engagement as well. We'll invite people to participate in the show. And thank you for giving us your time and attention. Have an excellent time building out your vision and becoming a Vision Pro yourself.